All right, let's go through weird things that only narcissists do. Number one is they value the opinion of strangers over you. So even if they've known you for years, they know how smart you are. They know all of the wonderful things that you do. They know how much you've accomplished. It doesn't even matter how much you've done for them. It doesn't, whatever. Like if somebody else comes along, they'd rather the opinion of strangers over you. Do you know why? Because narcissistic supply. Of course, they want like other people to think that they're so great or whatever. So it's a form of like flattery for this other person. Oh, I love your opinion, blah, blah, blah. And then the person goes, oh, you're so great. It's like love bombing this other person by pretending like they think their opinion is so great. They don't care about the other person's opinion. It's a love bomb on the other person, just FYI. So that's that. Number two is they don't like it when you initiate sex. Very weird, right? Most everybody else wants that. They don't like that. And I have a whole video around narcissists and sex. They don't like it because it's a control thing. They want to control you. They don't like you in their space. They don't like you touching. They don't like you doing things. They don't like intimacy. It's a control thing. So they don't want you doing things like that. So most people, you know, even men, like they like initiation, but not narcissists. It's a very weird thing about narcissists. Don't take it personally. Don't think that there's a rejection thing going on. It's part of an overall thing that's going on. Definitely check out my video on that topic. Number three, create massive upset around holidays, birthdays, all that stuff. Definitely check out my video on why narcissists ruin holidays. I cannot take other people being excited about things other than them. They get super mad about that. They don't like attention about anything other than themselves. They just can't stand it. So they get agitated, they get upset, they get angry, they really can't stand it. So that's number three. Number four, this is another one that's super weird, but it's so true. And if you guys have seen this, I want you to write, I've seen this, or any of these things so far. I want you to write, I've seen this in the comments. They walk in front of you, like even if like there's nothing to see ahead of you or whatever, they have to walk in front of you all the time. They walk in front of you, like if you're on vacation or you're going places, they feel like they need to walk a couple of steps ahead of you. Like even if you're not in a fight, like no matter what, they just feel like they need to walk in front of you. It's just a very strange thing. And so you can't like engage in a conversation because they're like ahead of you all the time. So that's number four. And number five, this is one of the super creepy things. Super creepy is they look through your stuff when you're not around. They creep around your stuff when you're not there. They hack into your computer even sometimes. For sure they do that. And they look through your things when you're not around. Number five. Number six, they mirror you. They have a way of copying you, especially if they're trying to love bomb you. They think that this is like, you're going to like them better if they copy you, if they finish your sentences or they dress like you, they have the same likes, if they have the same dislikes. This is how they kind of got you into their web in the first place, right? That's how they kind of got you hooked in to begin with. So that's one of the other things they do is they mirror you, they copy you. And I do have a video on this too. That's number six. Super weird, super creepy. So one of those things that you definitely see narcissists doing. The last thing, and this is just one of those things that can be so confusing for you all out there that are in romantic relationships with a narcissist, especially And I've seen this, especially as an attorney. It's very, very frustrating for me. And that is they push you away and then, they tell you that they're done and then they kind of pull you back. They don't fully let you go. They say, I'm done with you. But it's almost like, that mom that has like a little bit of a shirt left, of their toddler. Like they treat you horribly. And then they turn around and say, but why don't you want to be in a relationship with me? I don't think you love me. What's wrong? You're looking at them like, because you're abusive and horrible. It's like this complete disconnect about how they've behaved, or maybe they think that you're going to forget about it. But that's super weird. So weird things that only narcissists do.
Coverts are the absolute worst. The worst one. You know why? Because everybody thinks that they're so nice. And then they're in there with you, death by 1,000 cuts, little passive aggressive things. I've been there. I dealt with it. I had a covert narcissistic business partner. And on the veneer, there are the sweet ones, the kind ones, the humanitarians, the ones that everybody else sees as the good people. But they're the ones that behind the scenes are doing these passive aggressive little things to literally make you feel like you're going crazy. That's why it is so hard to get out of these relationships, because you feel like if you do, the whole world is going to vilify you. You feel like if you do, no one is going to be on your side. One of the strangest behaviors that I've seen of covert narcissists is that being the victim is everything to them. In every covert narcissist is that they must put themselves into being a victim place. And that's what is so crazy about a covert narcissist, because many times people think of a narcissist as this bragging person, this person who goes around telling everybody how great they are. Many times when people say a narcissist, they don't think of a covert narcissist as being a narcissist. This is a person who is, I'm a victim. This person did this thing to me and I can never get my way and life isn't fair. Those are the kinds of things that you often see with a covert narcissist. But let me tell you, this is a person where being a victim means everything to them. And if you hang around them long enough, you'll see that this is the person who will refuse to say they're sorry unless they need to do it because there's an audience there. For the most part, they don't apologize. I know of a situation where somebody, showed up at a funeral. They weren't supposed to be there. They only showed up there in order to prove a point, in order to do it as a manipulation tactic. This is what they do. They act like, what? I was just showing that I love a person. I was just showing that I paying my respects. It's this kind of plausible deniability, and like, how can you question my ethics, my morals, my incentives, my motivations? This kind of potential double entendre, when obviously what I meant was this. What are you talking about? That it was meant for a manipulation, that it was meant for something other than just that. When they know and everybody else knows that that's not what it was for. That attention means everything to them. Number 2 is stubbornly refusing to do things you ask them to do, even the smallest of things. It has to be their choice. They're so passive aggressive. If you ask them to do something, the answer is like they don't want to have to do anything, but they'll offer to do something. They want to have to offer to do something, but they don't want to be asked to do anything. Even if they would normally want to do it or they want to have to participate, or if it's something they would want to do, but they don't want to be forced to have to do anything that they don't want to have to do by somebody that they consider to be the person that they think that they're being manipulated by or whatever. They don't want to be obligated to do anything. If you ask them to do it, the answer is just going to, they want to knee jerk and say no. Unless, of course, there's an audience. Then, of course, they want to. Then, of course, let me offer to do it. Very stubbornly refusing to do things that you ask them to do, even the smallest of things. Number 3, public persona, completely different than their private persona. That rage is always just below that surface. It's almost as if they just can't stand you. It's like there's this boiling underneath them all the time. Public persona is, look at me, look how helpful, look how kind I am, look what a good person I am. But at home or behind closed doors or at work or whatever it is, the business partner, I don't want to have to do it. I don't want to have to be there. I don't want to be there for you. There's that rage just below the surface, that withholding of information, all that little stuff right below the surface all the time. I'd love to know what you guys think so far. Give me a yes in the chat. Give me a comment below. What are you guys thinking so far? Would love to know some feedback. What are you thinking? Number 4 is holding grudges. One of the next strangest behaviors that you see about covert narcissists is that they hold grudges about something that you would have totally forgotten about for years, literally for years. And you didn't even realize they were holding a grudge about that particular thing until it got brought up. It's just the craziest thing with them. Like I said, with narcissists all the time, you're either for them or against them. So they hold grudges about things for years. That's one of the strangest things about covert narcissists. But the other thing about that's really strange is they don't even bother to tell you that you've slighted them in this way. They just hold it. So that's another thing that's pretty crazy. The other thing that I think is a strange behavior about covert narcissists is that they spend lavishly on certain things, but then they are super cheap about certain things. So you'll see that they will spend lavishly on themselves. They love to have the name brand things, but then they are super cheap about gifts and super cheap about tipping, super cheap about other things. So it seems really, really ironic in a lot of ways because, you'll see that they really want to have the very most expensive shoes, the very most expensive handbags, or the very most expensive cars or homes or whatever. But when it comes to gift giving, they buy the minimum that they can get away with, or the minimum that they can get away with as far as tipping. In a way, they are the most dangerous of all the narcissists because they aren't out and about with their narcissism. At least with the grandiose, they tell everybody how bragging and boastful they are. The next thing about that I think is really strange about covert narcissists is that they are chameleons. Wherever they are, whoever they're with, that's who they pick up the behavior about. And if they're with somebody who's kind of quiet, then they'll be more like that. They even kind of dress the part. I used to be the target of a covert narcissist, and she used to kind of dress exactly the way I would dress. And it was super weird. One of the things that covert narcissists will do is they will stare at you a lot. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but they will stare at you because they're kind of studying you because they want to start to be able to mirror you. And that is because they are chameleons, right? They want to be able to take on your personality and become like you so that you will like them more so that they can start to love bomb you a little bit more, love bomb you when they need to. And remember, love bombing doesn't just happen at the beginning of the relationship. Love bombing can happen even during the relationship when they need it to manipulate you again and again and again. And the last strange behavior of a covert narcissist is the subtle put downs. They are very, very good at that. And they will work them in to the conversation when they need to. Something like, you look so great, since you've lost all the weight. I mean, too bad about the stretch marks, but I'm sure they'll go away. I mean, look at you. You look so much better. Subtle put downs. They're very good at that sort of thing. Those are the 7 strange behaviors of covert narcissists. They can drive you absolutely crazy.
All right, so 6 things that you can count on a narcissist to say. And I go over this in my brand new book, Slay the Bully, How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win. And if you don't have that, you can get that at slaythebully.com. At that website, if you order the book, you will get a whole huge masterclass and a workbook and all kinds of really cool things. So make sure you go to slaythebullybook.com and get that. So 6 things you can count on a narcissist to say. One of the things that they'll say is, I never said that. That is a form of gaslighting. Gaslighting is a way that all narcissists use to destabilize you, to make you think that you're crazy, to get you to doubt your own reality, to manipulate you, to get you to make you think that what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you taste, what you say, your senses aren't your senses. And they do that. First of all, they don't want to have to take responsibility for anything, but they also want to take control of you. It is used by all forms of narcissists, whether they're covert, overt, malignant, they all use it. And it's a way to deny their actions and make you more dependent on their truth and not your truth. One of the first things that you have to do in order to combat gaslighting is to create boundaries. I always say, step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free. It's all part of my SLAY method. Strategy, leverage, anticipate, and you turning that ship around. And if you are dealing with a narcissist in a negotiation capacity, go to winmynegotiation.com, get my free ebook. It's a free Crush My Negotiation Prep worksheet. Get that right now. It has helped literally hundreds of thousands of people at this point win their negotiations. It's a free 15-page ebook. So get that now. The second thing that all narcissists say is, you're too sensitive. It's a way to divert their attention away from their behavior, placing blame on you, on your reaction, claiming that you're too sensitive. They invalidate your emotions and making it seem like you're the issue, not them. So if you're hurt by a comment about your appearance, and instead of expressing remorse, they'll argue that you're the one who's overly emotional. If you're upset about them being late or something that they did, they dismiss your emotions, suggesting that you overreact. You're too sensitive. And again, this is actually another form of gaslighting, by the way. And in my new book, Slay the Bully, How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win, I actually talk a lot about this as well. This is why it's so difficult to negotiate with them, so difficult to communicate with them. If you're so over it, put so over it in the comments, because I know you guys are so over it. You're so ready to move forward and take back your power, take back your life, as you should be. Okay. So number 3 is, nobody else thinks that. Nobody else thinks that. This is the whole, everybody else thinks, nobody else thinks. It's a way of lining up flying monkeys, a way of smearing you. Here, they're trying to isolate you, making you think that they've got all these people on their side and this whole army of people, and you're the only one that thinks something. Oh my God, I should never leave them, because if I do, they've got all these people against me already. I'm never going to win. And I know that many times as an attorney, people would come in and go, are you strong enough? Are you strong enough to be up against this person? They were afraid that even I would be snowed by this person, right? They really think that everybody is going to believe this narcissist. And they say it with such power, such conviction, such confidence. And that is something that you can do too. If you say something with such power, such conviction, my father used to say, whatever you say it with authority and people will believe you, right? Make sure that you do the same thing. If you're feeling powerless, if you're feeling paranoid, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling blue, make sure you get the help and support that you need. If you need access to therapy, get the therapy that you need. And if you want one online, if you don't have that help, we have a sponsor on this channel. It's BetterHelp. You can go to betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung. We receive commissions on that because it is a sponsor on this channel. It doesn't cost you any extra, but we just want you to have access to help and support that you can trust. And we do also have an amazing support group here, which you can go to, which is Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. That is on Facebook. And the link is below if you want to find that. The next thing that they say is you're overthinking it. You're overthinking it. By implying that you're overthinking it, they're like diminishing your emotions. They're basically saying you're irrational. What you're thinking doesn't matter. What you're thinking is not right. What you're thinking is not correct. It doesn't mean anything. If you're concerned about they're not spending enough time with you, you're overthinking it, you're overanalyzing it. When you comment on their behavior with somebody, the heart is like 20 seconds ahead of the brain. Most of the time, your intuition is exactly correct. If you're feeling like something's off, it probably is. That's number 4. Number 5 is something similar to you're just jealous. You're just jealous. Their statement deflects from their action to your emotions and painting you as insecure. And they're trying to make you feel like you're insecure, you're just jealous. And instead of addressing your concerns and saying, hey, I don't want you to feel this way. What can I do to make you feel more comfortable? Let's discuss this. Immediately just say you're just jealous. And they just immediately dismiss you, dismiss your feeling, accuse you of being envious, and they immediately push it back on you. And a lot of times they do it with anger. A lot of times they do it with defensiveness. They do it with a lot of venom, and they might even like bring up stuff from your past and get angry about it and just make it so awful for you so that you'll never want to do it ever again. The last one that narcissists will often say, and that is, you can't live without me. This is a tactic that narcissists use. It's all about control. It's aimed to erode your confidence. It's made to make you think that you're so dependent on them or like no one else will ever want you. And it's like sort of like a neuro-linguistic programming technique, like almost like an embedded command. You couldn't live without me. It's just absolutely not true. Anybody can live without the other person if they really wanted to, right? Recognizing these patterns is a cornerstone of empowerment, and just knowing that I can do it. I can do whatever I want. Many, many people have escaped being with narcissists, and you absolutely can too. Everybody can break the chains of trauma bond or whatever it is that you're dealing with, whether it's a work situation or a family situation or a neighbor, whatever it is that you're dealing with, you can do this.
Have you ever met somebody, they started off to be the most charming, charismatic person you've ever met in your life, then they turned out to be your worst nightmare, and then when you go to negotiate with them, they're a living hell? Well, I developed something called the SLAY method of negotiating with narcissists, and it has helped tens of thousands of people in more than 150 countries win, go from feeling drained and defeated to getting the outcomes they want. And the reason why it works is because I spent more than 20 years studying narcissism as a trial attorney, and now I'm here to help you win too, and also take your suffering and turn it into your superpower. Take your pain and turn it into profit, peace, and purpose as a highly specialized, high conflict negotiation coach. If you want to learn how to do it, then just go to RebeccaZung.com/apply, and I will show you how. So I've had to deal with narcissists. I know how horrible it can be. And specifically, I actually have had to deal with a couple of covert narcissists. And that is something that you really see a lot of mirroring in, especially with the coverts. I mean, all narcissists, they don't have any sense of self. They don't have any sense of self inside. They don't have any sense of real value inside. They kind of pick up these traits of other people wherever they go. So they kind of are almost like chameleons. And that's why at the beginning, they really seem fabulous. They seem like your soulmate. They seem perfect. And that's because they have this ability to kind of become this carbon copy of you. You know, at the beginning, it seems great. And you think you've found this perfect person. But and then it becomes kind of weird in some ways. And they do use this technique that is very, very manipulative because they've been studying people. The way that they have this chameleon technique, the way they know how to manipulate people so well is because they know how to read people, they study people to become the perfect person. But it's this fake routine. It's this double life that they lead because, you know, inside they're empty, they have nothing going on. Outside is this shell of a person. And by the way, I do have a whole video on why narcissists lead double lives, which you can definitely check out. And so they have this technique that involves mimicking other people's body language, other people's mannerisms and words in order to create an emotional bond with someone. It's their technique of love bombing you in a way. It's their technique of gaining control over you. It's a way for them to eventually manipulate you and continue to be able to manipulate you. They use it over and over again because even if they start to feel like their control is slipping, you know, once they lose control over you a little bit, you know, you're onto them, you catch them in a lie or something like that, then they need to future fake you, or they need to project or deflect or whatever. It's always this constant game with them. You would think that it would be kind of exhausting for them, but they have to do whatever they need to do. So then they go back to the love bombing, or they go back to the future faking or whatever. It's this constant thing. And so they have to go back to doing these sorts of things. And I wrote this down, that mirroring was this term that was actually coined by Sigmund Freud back in the day, that he used it to describe a way in which people used to their own self-image as a model for how they believed that other people would see them. So for example, if someone felt like they were attractive, they would often, try to be more attractive around other people by being that way too. So it was like they would mirror how other people were by being the same as the other person, the way the other person was. And I have found that so much with the coverts in my life. There was one particular covert that was in our family. My husband was like always annoyed because this particular person would like finish sentences. And oftentimes it wasn't even the way he would want to finish the sentence. And he would find it really, really annoying. You can find out more about covert passive-aggressive narcissists in my video on that topic if you'd like. The other covert narcissist in my life would oftentimes just copy everything that I would do and try to steal my ideas. I mean, a lot of times covert narcissists are sort of inherently lazy. So they would just sort of let you do all the work and try to take your ideas and pass it off as their own. So that happens sometimes too, but that's sort of something else that they do as well. But why they mirror you oftentimes is because they think that it's a way to sort of love bomb you. They think that it's a way to make them look more attractive to you so that they will eventually be able to manipulate you, a way that they will eventually be able to control you. And interestingly enough, when I would tell people sometimes, some of the coverts in my life would actually copy the way that I dressed, copy the way that I would talk, the way that I would look. And if I would tell people about it, sometimes they would say, "Oh, isn't that flattering?" I mean, it was sort of stalking in a way, sort of a little bit weird. And I would find it not flattering. I would find it really strange. If you think it's super weird, if you agree with me, just give me an agree in the chat. And I would also love to know what some of the ways that you have found that narcissists have mirrored you guys in the chat as well. Put that just in the comments below also. I'm just curious to know. So anyway, that is why narcissists tend to mirror you. And in negotiations, you may see this happening as well, because they're going to continue to do whatever they were doing in the past in negotiations, because they've got their arsenal of tools, and that's what they're going to continue to rely on even in the negotiations. So some of the things that they were doing in the past, you may see them continuing to do in the negotiations too. Yeah, the reason I am on this mission is because I have had to deal with covert narcissists, the subject of today's video. I've had to deal with them in a business setting, one of them in a business setting and one in my extended family. I had never even heard the term covert narcissist before until somebody pointed it out to me. And I remember when we were having this conversation, the person who pointed it out to us pointed it out to my husband and me first, and they were like, "Oh, that person, that family member that you're dealing with is a covert narcissist." And I remember I was like, "Covert narcissist? I never even heard that term before." But I remember thinking, "Oh, I don't think she's a narcissist." I mean, a narcissist to me was like a boastful, bragging, super egotistical, usually a male. Like, to me, it was always a male. I mean, it had never occurred to me, number one, that a narcissist could be a female. And by the way, the person who was calling this person a narcissist happened to be a psychologist. I was like, "I don't think she's a narcissist. Pretty sure she's just like really insecure." And he was like, "Okay, you know what? Let it be a hypothesis. And if I'm wrong, I guess you'll know it. And if I'm right, you'll know it too. The facts and circumstances will bear it out." And of course, he was 100% right. But as time went on and I started to read and learn much more about it, I started to really figure it out. And so, there's so much that goes into a covert narcissist. But, my hypothesis is that I think women do tend to be more the covert kind, because women want to be more under the radar. They tend to want to be, they want to look nice. They want to look kind. I mean, but I don't know. I think that there are a lot of male covert narcissists too. They're the ones that nobody suspects. Like, the world thinks that they're so fantastic. They're so charismatic. The world thinks they're wonderful. So anyway, here are some strange behaviors of covert narcissists. I mean, number one is that they're super passive aggressive. Their words do not match their actions. So they're like super kind and "Oh, absolutely, I will do that for you. Absolutely. I will get right back to you on that." And then you don't hear from them. Or, I definitely want to make sure that you were taken care of. And then they don't. And so you're left like so confused all the time. And do I force them on that? Do I ask them about that? And does this make me a bad person because they're so nice? And then here you are, the one like, am I being passive aggressive? Am I being the one that's a problem? It seems very strange because they seem so nice. So it's kind of a strange behavior because they seem so nice, but it's actually not strange if you get to know who they are as a covert narcissist. So that's number one. Number two is they value the opinions of strangers over family. I mean, and this is something that my husband and I have seen it with the covert narcissist that we've had to deal with in our family situation. You know, this particular person who shall not be named definitely values the opinions of strangers over family. It can be painful unless you realize and just accept that that's who they are, that they are narcissists. And that's what narcissists do. They are seeking that external praise, they're seeking that narcissistic supply. And that's the very strange thing about narcissists. They kind of take for granted the opinions or the supply that they're getting within their inner circle. They don't really care about the supply that they already have. That's just sort of a given. They want the supply that they're getting externally. For some reason, that means more to them than the supply or the validation that they can get from the people who actually love them, from the people who actually care about them or actually value them. They prefer to get it from other people that they don't even know. But that's how it is. It doesn't really make any sense, but that is very strange. And so that's number two. Number three, and I will never really get over number three, to be honest with you. Both of the covert narcissists that I had to deal with did this with me, and I found it very odd, very weird, very super creepy. And that is that they stare at you. I actually did a whole video on this just because I really couldn't stand it. My whole video was called Why the Narcissist is Always Watching You. You know, both of the narcissists I had to deal with, I would find like would be staring at me, watching me. They stalk your social media, they check out what you're doing. You know, I would find that they would like copy me, watch what I was wearing, copy that. And you know, some people would be like who don't understand narcissism, they'd be like, oh, but that's so flattering, that's so, you know, that's so nice that they would like want to be like you or something. But no, like those of you who understand narcissism, like you know that it's not flattering. It's like the creepy kind. Actually, recently I had dinner with another couple who happened to let me know that one of the narcissists that I had to deal with that I've completely cut out of my life, not the family member one, but the other one, let me know that there was like some like buddy who was in touch with somebody else that, you know, sort of like this fringe sort of in touch, that like there's that like narcissist that's still like trying to poke their head through to try to get through the boundaries that I've created. I mean, very sad, but you know, from my own growth perspective, I was like, you know what? I don't really feel any emotion about it. So it was actually good. It was like a little test for me because when I heard about it, I was like, that is so pathetic. I actually found myself feeling like nothing. So I was glad about that. So that's number three. Number four is they're super weird about gift giving. You know, they kind of like don't really want to give gifts. They like, oh, here you go. And there's like ties against it. They don't really like to give gifts. I do have a video on that too, by the way, if you want to check it out. But you know, narcissists, there's always like strings. They don't like to give gifts, really. There's always something involved with the gifts. So that's number four. Number five is they're chameleons, you know, like they're kind of one way with one group and one way with another group and one way with this person and another way with another person. Because, they whatever color they are with this person, they might be a different color with a different person because, they don't have a sense of self, right? Because they're a narcissist. So that's number 5. Number 6. This is actually another little sore spot for me because this was something I had to deal with in my business setting kind of situation. Anyway, they definitely take credit for your ideas. Yep, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Did not like that, but they do that. They definitely like to take credit for your ideas because they don't have any ideas of their own. Yes, because, they are energy vampires. That's part of what they do. They suck the energy out of you. And if you know this to be true, give me an energy vampires in the comments below. Come on, say it with me. Energy vampires. Yes, they are. All right. And number 7, this is another little catchy little tune that the coverts like to play. This is another little strange behavior of theirs, which is they act like they're strong. I'm so strong. I'm so good. But then they also like to play the victim. Very strange, very weird. They want to play like they're strong, they're so good, but then they also, oh, they played me. I can't believe they did that to me. I'm so weak. The whole passive aggressive thing, part of the whole covert thing. I'm so nice, but I'm also, like, again, knives under me, so warm over here, but there's ice in my blood. Yes, indeed. So anyway, those are the 7 top strange behaviors of covert narcissists. The one that I personally detest the most because I've had to deal with them. So let's unravel the mystery of the narcissist fake discard. This is a cunning tactic and it's so cruel. This is one of the most vicious, kind of really cruel things that they'll do is they love to play with your emotions. And, they always do this sort of push pull thing, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. But this is really one of the worst ones because you really think, okay, this is it. I definitely am ready. I'm done. It's over. But it's designed to keep you ensnared in their web of manipulation, of course. It's part of that whole supply source thing, right? So knowledge is power, though, right? So we're here to equip you with the tools that you need to break free. What is a fake discard? It's this theatrical performance is really what it is. And it's designed to evoke major emotions in you. So it's to evoke pity, it's to evoke sympathy or evoke anger or to get you to be upset, drama, chaos, and ultimately control. It's ultimately a way for you to go crawling back and demonstrate how much you need them, how much you want them, how much your loyalties lie there, whether it's a professional relationship or a personal relationship. How do you distinguish between the real discard and the fake discard? Well, in a real discard, you're not going to hear from them again, at least not anytime soon, not until their new source of supply is really discarding them. So in a real discard, let's say, for example, I had situations before in a divorce practice where, let's say, a guy meets up with his old flame on Facebook. He says, honey, this has been great, but I know, you stood by me for the last 30 years or whatever it is, but I met up with my old flame from high school on Facebook, and I know you might have breast cancer or whatever it is, but I'm out of here. That's a real story. So I am now moving in with my old flame, and you can move in with your mother and see ya. That's, probably a real discard right there because, they've got a new source of supply. They, have something else to move on to, and they're probably not looking back until then new source of supply ditches them. They have no more supply going on over there, and they don't have any money, or no one else is giving them sex or whatever it is, then they come crawling back to you. That is how that usually goes. And all of that is a real story, by the way. So disgusting, so bad. You can put it in the comments, so bad. But that would be a real discard. A fake discard is more about manipulating emotions. It's much more about how can we use this as a tactic to manipulate, to be the master puppeteer, to cause turmoil, to cause confusion, to cause drama. It's usually a temporary thing. So normally within a week or two that you'll hear from this person, and the entire time that you haven't heard from them, they're watching you, they're checking up on you. Yeah, they're not responding to texts or whatever, but the whole time they are looking to see what you're up to or whatever. And even if it's in a workplace situation, they're still kind of checking on you to see what you're up to or what you're doing. And then eventually, of course, they'll give in. Okay, well, I'll talk to you now, only if you do this, this, and this, and blah, 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 right? And they have like their list of conditions or ways that they will talk to you again. And then, it starts to, de-ice at some point or thaw out. That's how that will usually go. And then that's how you know that that's been a fake discard, because it doesn't usually last that long. And then you end up starting to talk to each other again. The real discard, will usually last a lot longer. The devastating impact on your emotions, because you know that this person is literally causing you so much strife and so much heartache and so much pain. It's just not okay what they're doing. It's not okay. And so you really have to start to think about, how can you create emotional autonomy? How can you start to build some kind of boundary around this and understand, I'm not somebody that you can play this game with. You have to start to go, I understand that you're testing me. This is not a game that I'm willing to play with you anymore. I want to move on with my life. So you start to think about, how can I exit this relationship, whether it's a workplace situation or a home situation, or if it's a family situation, you have to start to think about, how can I have some boundaries here that are going to work for me? But if it's a home situation, you've got to start to think about, how can I set some boundaries effectively so that when this person comes along and starts inevitably testing them again, I can be in a place of power. I can reclaim my sense of power. You can't live in this constant state of flux where now it's over. No, it's not. I'm going to be moving out. No, I'm not. You can't live your life like that. No matter how resilient you are, no matter how strong you are, no matter how tough you are, that's not a way of life. So it's time to shed the shackles of manipulation and embrace your inherent strength. You're worthy of something so much more than that. You're worthy of something so much more respectful than that. I want you to, right now, think about what it is that you really want for yourself and your life. It's not something where you're just optional all the time, where you're just, you know what? Yeah, now I want you. No, I don't. Like you're just food that, you're just being served in the restaurant, and you know what? I'm just gonna send it back. You're not that. You're not the optional thing at the restaurant.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. We often talk about red flags we should avoid, but what if we focus more on green flags in friends and partners? Whether you're dating, married, building a friendship, or just working on yourself from time to time. So how about we work on the relationships that are gonna love you back, including yourself? I know for me, therapy's been absolutely game-changing, and learning how to love myself, set boundaries, and overcome all
all sorts of blocks I didn't even realize I was creating for myself. I just knew I wanted to be the best version of myself that I could be. What I love about BetterHelp is that they make therapy totally accessible and convenient. The network is totally diverse, more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. Plus, if you don't gel with one, you can just easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/negotiate today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/negotiate. So today we are diving into a really fascinating topic that not many people talk about that often, but it can be really, really puzzling. It's the weird sleeping patterns of narcissists. Now, you might be wondering, what could be weird about sleeping patterns and what do they mean? And especially when you're coming down to the discard phase and dealing with them and negotiations and communications, well, it does all intertwine actually. So let's dive into this. All right. So inconsistent sleep patterns is one of the things. They often have inconsistent sleep patterns. So like one night they might sleep for 12 hours and then the next night they might get barely any sleep at all. And this erratic sleep pattern is a reflection of this inner turmoil that they feel inside. Like they have this fake person on the outside, this sort of masquerading person that they've got going on out here. And then inside, they've got this small little person, this true self that they've got going on inside that they try to push down, smush down. And so it's hard for them because they're very restless. They can be very restless. They've got this, constant need for control going on. Think about a time when you've had a narcissist maybe in your life. Maybe this person stayed up all night. Maybe it's a perceived slight that they had, or they're plotting their next move. Their restless mind just doesn't allow them to have a healthy sleep schedule. I had a client who had a narcissistic partner, and this partner would stay up for days and days on end. I mean, it's kind of crazy, like, because they can become obsessed with stuff that they've got going on, or obsessed with projects, or maybe something they've got going on at work, or things that they're thinking about. Maybe it's a person that they're obsessed over. And they'll even ignore responsibilities. They'll ignore their kids. They'll isolate themselves sometimes. They've got chaotic home environments. People will never know what to expect around them because of this craziness that they have. And it can lead to constant stress and constant anxiety. Insomnia due to overthinking. They overthink things, they analyze things, they overanalyze things. They get up in the middle of the night, they're pacing around, they're sitting up in bed, and they can't quiet their minds. And so, like, I had another client whose ex would sometimes wake up in the middle of the night to write long, angry emails to people, to colleagues, to people at work, or to family members, right? They were constantly plotting and planning and scheming. It's constant insomnia. Other thing that they will use sleep for is a manipulation tool. Have you guys seen this one? Give me a totally in the comments if you have seen this, where they use sleep as a way of shutting people out, or not having to deal with life, or having to deal with having conversations with people, having to deal with responsibilities, to deliberately not having to deal with things. Or they alter other people's sleep patterns, right? So they disrupt your routine, exert control, or try to wake you up in the middle of the night too. By the way, I've seen that. They insist on craziness around sleep with this. I remember somebody telling me that they would go in and wake somebody up at 3 o'clock in the morning just to have an argument with them. Go in, wake them up, turn on all the lights, pull the blankets off of them, insist on having either a fight with them or a deep, meaningful conversation with them in the middle of the night. And knowing that they would have an important meeting with them in the morning. It's all part of a strategy to keep you off balance. So that's one example. Another one is to keep the upper hand with you, right? That's another reason that they do that. Another one is sleeping too much in response to criticism, because then they don't have to have conversations with you. They don't have to have these deep conversations, or they don't have to have heated arguments, right? Or they don't have to have any kind of serious conversations that you might want to have. They're sleeping all the time, especially sleeping when you get home or before you leave for work or whatever it is. Then they don't have to engage in whatever conversation that you want to engage in. It can be super, super frustrating because they're using sleep in this way to manipulate you. It's just another form of projection and deflection when they're doing that, right? And isolate you. It's again, these silos. It's, you end up in a relationship, but you're not really in a relationship. It's so much worse than actually being alone. It's so much better to just actually be alone. If you're going to be alone, you might as well be alone. If you've ever dealt with a narcissist, you know how incredibly confusing, frustrating, and even downright strange they are at times. Weird, scary, weird. I'm going to share 8 facts with you, but before we get started, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. I've got tons of content lined up to help you slay in any high conflict situation. Now, let's jump right into it. Narcissists are known for their toxic behaviors, and some are downright strange. These are 8 weird facts about narcissists to give you some insight that help you understand why they act the way that they do and how you can protect yourself. Scary weird fact number 1 is they're obsessed with winning, but not in the way that you think that they are. Their version of winning is to manipulate you, to see you squirm, to see you sweat, to continue the game. It's all about the game. They just want to feel superior. They want to have control. So it's not really about the achievement. It's not really about the outcome necessarily. They want the window dressing of the outcome, but they also want that, what I call coal level supply, which is making you sweat, seeing you squirm, manipulating you, smearing you, controlling you, and turning every little thing into an opportunity for them to get supply. It could be the competition of it. It could be actual negotiation where they're trying to get supply from you, but it could be just one-upping you in ridiculous situations where you are in a casual conversation. Maybe you said, oh, you know what? I just recently saw a great movie, and they start one-upping you about how they've already seen the director's cut of that, or they're friends with the people in it, or they know people who know people in it, and how their knowledge is more superior than yours. They're not just content with having a normal conversation. They need to manipulate you. They need to see you squirm. They need to be better than you, even in situations like that. They're trying to get you. Weird fact number 2, strangely and scarily, is that they mirror you to get what they want. This was something that I found so strange, is that I saw in my own situation where people would actually start dressing like me or saying things like me just to get other people in their world that they wanted the supply from to see them as more like me or whatever. And it was very odd. They mirror your behaviors, they watch you, they look at you, and they even mirror your emotions. And they also do this mainly to love bomb you, to make it seem like you guys have so much in common, and to manipulate you into trusting them and making you think that you have a deeper connection than you actually do. I want to know if you guys have ever met somebody like this, who at the beginning, it seems like you have all the same interests and values, and you find out later that they were only just saying those things to build a connection with you. If you've experienced this, say, I have, in the comments, and then let me know in what ways that you have experienced this. So, and I've even seen this in a work setting, by the way, where a boss might mimic your work style or your ideas and then later take credit for your success. They use mirroring as a tool to gain control. Third weird, scary fact about narcissists is that they're very insecure about being exposed. So this whole confident exterior is really like almost like they're two people in one body. There's this pretend confident person, and then there's the very scared person inside, and they don't want to be exposed for who they truly are. Their biggest fear is that people are going to see through their facade and realize they're not as powerful or competent as they pretend to be. And in a professional setting, they undermine others, sabotage projects, discredit colleagues, whatever they need to do to avoid being exposed for their own incompetence. Weird fact number 4 is they hate it when you don't react. So this is why you want to actually start not reacting and start not giving into the bait, the triggering. They thrive on emotional reactions. And if you don't react to their provocations, it's like you are literally taking away their power. So if a narcissistic partner tries to provoke you into a fight by saying hurtful things, they always go for the jugular. They always go for your Achilles heel. You've got to stay calm and not engage, because that's what's going to drive them crazy. They want to see you upset because it validates their control. And if you're in a work situation, a narcissistic boss might try to micromanage you or criticize or shame you publicly, hoping for a reaction. But when you stay calm, composed, neutral, you've won the battle, because they can't manipulate you without your emotional reaction. Have you ever met somebody, they started off to be the most charming, charismatic person you've ever met in your life, then they turned out to be your worst nightmare, and then when you go to negotiate with them, they're a living hell? Well, I developed something called the SLAY method of negotiating with narcissists, and it has helped tens of thousands of people in more than 150 countries win, go from feeling drained and defeated to getting the outcomes they want. And the reason why it works is because I spent more than 20 years studying narcissism as a trial attorney, and now I'm here to help you win too, and also take your suffering and turn it into your superpower. Take your pain and turn it into profit, peace, and purpose as a highly specialized, high conflict negotiation coach. If you want to learn how to do it, then just go to RebeccaZung.com/apply, and I will show you how. So scary weird fact number 5 is they use triangulation to create drama. Triangulation is getting other people involved, third people involved, and then they pit each other, one against the other, to watch the chaos unfold. This is all part of that sadistic part of their personality, where they enjoy making people sweat, squirm, and they enjoy this because it gives them the feeling of power, gives them the feeling of control. You see this in families where people will pit siblings against each other, in work situations where you see colleagues undermining another one. Oh, hey, that person was saying this about you, blah, blah, blah. And oh, now they're stirring up tension between two people. They're creating discord. And they love that because they get the attention from that, and they also get to control people. So if you're dealing with this, make sure you grab my free phrases for disarming narcissists at disarmthenarc.com, because they definitely help you disarm that narcissist in your life. The next thing is they pretend to be a victim. This is one of the things that really, I have to say, is one of my biggest things that bothers me, because they are masters at playing the victim. They're masters at switching that narrative around and making it look like they're the ones who are the victim of you. This is where DARVO comes into play, which is deny, attack, reverse, victim, offender, where they deny what they're being accused of, they attack the victim, and then they reverse it so that the victim becomes the offender. And they go telling everybody how awful you are, how wronged they got. And then they make you into the person who's the bad person. They smear you. And it is extremely hurtful, and it can be a huge betrayal, especially if the people that they're lining up to be their flying monkeys buy into that narrative. It really is bullying at its core. So if you're dealing with this, make sure you join my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung, for additional help and support there. The next thing is that they hate accountability. I always say lying and denying, right? Projection and deflection. As soon as you try to hold them accountable, they're going to go to great lengths to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. And if they're confronted, hell hath no fury, and they'll shift that blame onto whoever they need to shift the blame to. So if you're dealing with this in a spousal or significant other situation, they're going to accuse you of being too sensitive, blowing things out of proportion, that they didn't do it. Gaslighting. Accountability is like poison to them. And in a professional setting, if a boss is called out for poor leadership, they deflect it, blaming the team, poor resources, external circumstances. They're never going to admit that they're at fault, ever. So don't waste your breath trying to get them to do that. And finally, scary, weird fact about narcissists is that they crave validation, and they criticize all kinds of other people, but they sure can't take it. It's one of those dish it out but can't take it situations. And while they're desperately craving validation, they can't handle even the slightest bit of criticism. One tone, one eye roll, any little thing, any little slight, perceived slight is enough to send them crazy. And so if they're seeking compliments and affirmation from you, but the moment you offer constructive criticism comes along, they're going to become defensive, they're going to lash out. They need complete admiration, zero tolerance for any form of feedback that's going to challenge them in any way. Their egos are super, super fragile, so they can't handle any even constructive feedback at all. I'd love to hear from you. Which of these weird, scary facts have you experienced personally? Maybe there's another one I haven't mentioned. Many people who have dealt with the effects of non-physical narcissistic abuse. And, many people say, why isn't this illegal? You can actually get a restraining order for physical abuse, right? But you can't get a restraining order you can't see it, but it sure does take its toll on you physically. It sure does take its toll on you emotionally. I've certainly been there. I've certainly felt the effects of it myself personally. So I definitely know. I mean, one of the things that it can cause in you is chronic post-traumatic stress disorder. There's a very big difference between CPTSD and PTSD, not to take away from PTSD, which is very awful also. But the difference between CPTSD and PTSD is that PTSD actually happens to people when they've been exposed to one event, a car accident or a war, something like that. Chronic post-traumatic stress disorder happens to people when they've been exposed to something over a long period of time, like narcissistic abuse. And what happens is it causes long-term effects on your body, long-term stress, long-term trauma on your body. And you end up really having, autoimmune issues, kidney disorders, liver disorders. It can cause diabetes in your body because of the elevated A1C levels, the elevated stress in your body. I mean, when you have elevated cortisol levels in your body, it ends up causing a lot of havoc in your body. Your gut health issues, your vagus nerve, constant stress. Your body is in constant fight or flight mode, and it really wreaks havoc in many different areas. Your hair starts falling out. You can't sleep right. Your skin starts to look bad. You don't even see straight sometimes. That's how it starts manifesting. But what are the non-physical signs of narcissistic abuse? And I'm going to go through them. And so I want you to listen to me. And if you are having these, I want you to know that this is happening to you, that these are signs of narcissistic abuse. Number one is that this person is isolating you from family or friends. And this happens pretty early on in a narcissistic relationship. And it's kind of subtle. They'll start to say things like, why do you have to talk to this person on the phone? Why do you have to talk to them for so long? Why can't you just be with me? Why are you talking to that person now? Why do you have to spend so much time with that person? That person doesn't love you like I do. Or I don't really like that person. Or that person doesn't like me, so I don't want to spend time with them. That kind of thing. And so all of a sudden, you're being isolated from those people. And now you find yourself away from the people that you once loved, or the people that you once enjoyed spending time with, the people that you once enjoyed having a relationship with. And little by little, you no longer have a relationship with those family or friends, with those people that you once loved. And it's a strange thing. Right. So they isolate you. Now you're moving away from them. And they do this, it's a control issue. They want to be able to control you. They want to be able to control their kingdom. They feel insecure when other people are around. They feel like your attention is on other people other than them. They feel your love is on people other than them. And they don't want you to love or feel affection for people other than them. That's why they isolate you. Okay, so that's number one. And by the way, that's why I've created support systems like I have. And if this is happening to you, I have a free private Facebook group that you can join. It's my Narcissist Negotiators Facebook group. It's totally free. I also do have my inner circle, which you can join, slayinnercircle.com. So I invite you to take advantage of the resources that I have. That's number one. Number two is they twist the truth and they gaslight you, right? So they'll say things like, oh, we talked about that and you agreed. Don't you remember? And they say things with such authority, with such confidence, that you think, I don't remember having that conversation. And the first few times that it happens, you're like, oh yeah, I definitely didn't say that. But it happens over and over again, and you're in the relationship for so long that you start to really believe them. And it's a person that you trust, if it's a romantic relationship, who purports to love you, who purports to care about you, and oftentimes is maybe successful in other areas in their life. And so you think that they know what they're talking about. And so they twist things and you trust them. You think maybe they're right. Maybe we didn't have that conversation, or maybe I did. Maybe I did say that, or maybe I am wrong. And you really start to question yourself. And they project things and they start to say, you're wrong. It's your fault. You're the one. Things start to be projected onto you often, and you start to question yourself. So twisting truth, or they say it's somebody else's fault. It was them. It was somebody else. Projection, deflection, lying, denying, constantly twisting truths. But most of the time it's you. You're delusional. You're the one with the problem. Twisting truths, constant gaslighting, non-physical sign of narcissistic abuse. It erodes away at you. So you, who once felt good about yourself, who once felt like you knew who you were, start to feel unsure, unsteady, unstable. Non-physical sign of narcissistic abuse. Number three, hot and cold behavior. I love you. I hate you. I'm all over you. I can't get enough of you. Get the heck off of me. You're amazing. You're the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I'm repulsed by you. I mean, it's literally almost like that, but not always in those terms, but basically kind of like that from day to day. And there was a study done by a psychiatrist or psychologist named Robert Sapolsky from Stanford on monkeys. One set of monkeys were given a treat every single time they did something great. In those monkeys' brains, nothing happened. The other set of monkeys were given a treat sometimes, intermittently. They didn't know when they were going to get something. Those monkeys, just the anticipation of maybe they were going to maybe get rewarded, the anticipation caused the dopamine levels in their brain to rise to the level of cocaine. Not getting the treat, the anticipation that they might. And that's what happens with this hot and cold behavior. Hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. And that's what happens with these narcissists, constant flooding, showing up at your house or office, whatever, flowers, sweep you off your feet. And then the next day, ghosting you, not responding to emails. I can't stand you. You're so needy. I have to work. What's your problem? Hot and cold. And that's what they do, or this withhold of information, private. I can't tell you things. Don't go into my stuff. That very moody, hot and cold. And that's that cycle. And then don't leave me. I hate you. Don't leave me. That's what causes that trauma bond. The fourth one is this invasion of privacy and no boundaries. And, this is another one of those one-sided things, by the way. Don't touch their stuff. Don't even go near their phone. Don't go into their things. They'll absolutely go ballistic and berserk on you if you even go near sniffing their, touching their stuff. But they are allowed to break into your computer, break into your phone, show up wherever, and have absolutely no boundaries with regard to your space, your stuff. And even if you are like a professional, I'm aware of narcissists who will show up at their spouse's offices, even if they're doctors, lawyers, whatever, and there's confidential information around about their patients, about their clients that have nothing to do with their spouse, that they should not be seeing, that they should not be touching, that they should not be around, but they don't care because they feel like that spouse belongs to them. Or maybe it's their son, or maybe it's their daughter, or maybe it's their whoever. And if they feel like they're allowed to just barrel in, then that's what they get to do. Invasion of privacy, no boundaries when it comes to them. Like, it's all about them. These people are possessions to them. You belong to me, right? And that's why you have to be so done with these people. You have to be so done. You have to create boundaries. You have to create boundaries. And that's the only way that you cut off that toxicity. You've got to be so done. And that's why I want you to put so done in the comments right now. So done. You've got to be so done. That's what I help you do. That's where I come in, because I totally know how to help you be so done. All right. That's my specialty. And the next one, number 5, this is where it gets kind of scary. Okay. Because this is where they can become malignant. And I've seen this. This is where sometimes you need restraining orders. This is where sometimes you need, court intervention. Jealousy and accusations. It can turn very toxic here. It can turn kind of even deadly sometimes. When they can become super jealous, they start to stalk, they start to become violent. But that's a very, very telltale sign of non-physical narcissistic abuse. It's sometimes people can be a little bit jealous here and there or whatever, but when they start accusing you, when they start really going a little bit insane with the accusations, when they start going over the top with the jealousy and accusations, it's not okay. And it's constant. Where were you? What are you doing? I want to see your phone. When they start tracking you, I've seen car trackers, phone trackers. That's not okay. I've seen them slash tires. Not okay. That's when you have to be so done. It can get kind of dangerous. Okay. So jealousy and accusations.